Hey everyone, this is Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. I'm your host, the real Theo Harvey, and Mr. Benja. We're coming with all the relevant info to get your week started. So, Mr. Benja, what you got on tap today?
We got something hot, we got something spicy, we got something cold, we got something chill. We got it all for you in this summer episode of Show versus Business. Here are the stories that we're going to be covering. AI sex fluencers, they are a thing. I know you probably thought that it might be the future. Too bad. It's already here. AI sex fluencers are a thing. Also, we're going to talk about why Threads sucks. Zuck put a whole bunch into it, but Threads suck. We're going to talk about that. Also, Warner Brothers Discovery is saving money in the strike. How does that even work? Is this a weird kind of, conflict of interest, or something? It's bad business and companies saving money during strikes. Also, we're going to have Disney corporate machinations. We got to find out what Disney's up to. They're making some moves. They're doing some things. It doesn't always seem like, above board. It might be a little shady. Let's check in with Iger. And also, for our last story, we're going to have Netflix residuals. Apparently, they ain't worth boop, and we're gonna tell you why those Netflix residuals ain't worth boop, or shit if you just wanted me to say it. That's all we got for today. How's that looking?
I love it. I love it, Mr. Benja. So, let's get into this. I'm a Star Trekkie or Trekker on these wavelengths. Have
Sure.
you heard the latest in Star Trek land?
I haven't been keeping up with Star Trek. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, shame on you, shame on you. So for those who don't know, this series has been around since the '60s, and then the '80s. They made tons of movies about them. And those died out, and then it came back in the late '80s and early '90s with Next Generation, and then it went on for quite a while. Then it died out, then it sprung back up again on streaming services, Paramount Plus predominantly, and now it's getting some acclaim with some new shows. But Mr. Benjo, I was just thinking about Star Trek, man. I have a theory, man.
Okay.
This is the premier, universe. They created something that everyone is starting to emulate. So think about this.
Wait. Hold on.
Where else have you
The
seen
premiere universe.
the premiere?
Go ahead.
It's it's the prime universe. It's the prime universe. In other words, everyone's mocking them to create their own kind of, universes. The MCU verse, the own verses are emulating Star Trek. Why? I say this because their continuity is so tight. They know all their history. The Bible is thick of the history of how it works, and it's all canonical, right? If it happened, it happened, and they reference it quite a lot in every show. So number one, number two, they actually did a major flex in the '60s and '80s that we just now getting wind to. They took an obscure TV episode, character from that TV episode, and brought it all back for a major motion picture in the '80s.
Talking about
And
Khan.
that is, of course, Khan. They created a TV show, characters and all, same actors, same everything. And they took that same concept and created a movie that was a blockbuster movie, The Revenge of Khan, that everyone enjoyed and came out in 1982. Just think about that. That's something we would do now. But this was done from a '60s TV show and it wasn't the first movie they did for Star Trek. It was the second one. And that was the one that just kind of showed you the possibility of how, wide and spread, Star Trek is. And because basically, I went back and watched the original episode because the show I'm watching now is referencing some of that stuff. And I watched, it's called Space Seed, when they introduced Khan, who was some kind of maniacal, takeover dictator. And he went after, and he was in cryogenic sleep for like over 200 years. They revived him and he tried to take over the universe again before Kirk dealt with them. But they brought him right back for a movie. So anyway, I saw this to say that Star Trek is just the prime example of how this is done. How is it done? Well, in most cases. But the reason why I bring it up today is because they expanded the universe even more. It's also the first kind of universe to really expand itself, right? I mean, there's been funny Star Trek stories, there's been sad ones, there's been, very sci-fi, versions of it. What we're going to say is this is something that is very exciting that I think a lot of people are really interested in, and they did a whole musical about Star Trek. And it was just amazing, man. It's like all music all the time, and they did it on the latest episode of Strange New World. So anyway, I say it's the prime example because number one, they did it first. They took a TV show, made a movie. It's all canonical, and then they always expand the boundaries on what's possible in these episodes. So, and oh, fourth, they do parodies of it all the time. Star Trek parodies are everywhere, from Living Color to you know.
Right? So it's a cultural icon because you know this because it gets parodied so often. That is a mark of
Yes.
a cultural icon. Okay. I based on those points, I can't disagree with any of them. I can't disagree. So it is the OG universe. That's solid. That's solid. I'll give it to you. So what brought this up?
I want that musical episode. It
Oh,
was like, okay, they did a whole episode and it worked for a Star Trek episode. Everybody sang and did their part. Kind of like if you ever watched Buffy, they did something
Buffy.
similar
Yep.
years ago. Yeah,
The
that's once more with feeling.
that I
That was
really
the
liked.
episode.
That was
Yeah, I think
that is
everybody liked that.
that might be the only musical in history that I rock with. Well, actually, no, there are 3, I'm sorry, there are 3 musicals in history I rock with. In fact, I might make that a whole podcast episode because
Okay, we'll just discuss that at another
musicals ain't
time.
shit, but these 3. I now I gotta
Oh, hot take. Oh my God,
now
we get.
this one just to make sure there shouldn't be a 4th one on the list, but
I mean, if I'm a sucker for musicals. I mean, at first I didn't like them, but it's. But anyway, well, look, Mr. Benja out here telling us that musicals ain't shit. So that's the hottest take of 2023. So there
is
we
it
go, guys. I don't. Yes, very very much so. So
oh,
I'll
my
just say that it was good. It was a good take, very engaging. It just surprised you who could sing of the cast, and yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting how they kind of kept some of the
alright,
storylines going. So anyway, that's kind of my take for the week on like what I've been interested into. This Star Trek is just top of line right now for me. I'm really pleased about what they're doing.
alright. Very cool, man. Yeah, I'll check it out. I definitely anytime I think something is garbage, I'm always looking for a new a new take on it. Like I'm go to a restaurant, and someone says, "Hey, I didn't think you liked, pad thai." And I'm like, "Listen, they said this pad thai was different. I'm going to try it because I'm missing something." So I'll try this musical out and see what it says. But yeah, follow me on Instagram or something if you want to find out the rest of the only musicals I rock with because there are only 3 of them so far. All right. But yeah, man, I was, before week before and 2 weeks before, we talked about, 10x, the Pareto principle, and how it's easier 10x is easier than 2x, and that whole paradigm, Grant Cardone and Dan Smith and all these characters, Benjamin Hardy. I really started thinking about some of this stuff and started piecing together some ideas, and I had some realizations, not about
Uh-oh.
myself, but about do you remember I asked, how we say, "Don't worry about what other people think about you." And it's like, well, yeah, but isn't that kind of what marketing is? And how is this? Isn't that what branding is? And I was trying to just make sure that I'm understanding all the nuance of don't worry about what people think about you. And I realized when you go 10x or when you start to shift a paradigm, you you really do threaten other people around you. You just start to change up. And it's not so much what like people say about you or whatever, it's all of a sudden identities start to change.
Mhm.
And like, I didn't know this, but when I was in school, my parents thought I was going to finish school, go get a job back in Tallahassee and, be a Tallahassee. I'm like, I'm going to California. And they're like, he's so dead set on California. And I'm like, this is how I 10x my life. I'm going to California. I'm going to do this. And they were like, he's dead set on it. And like, okay. So I went out to California, started talking different because California, I started saying hella for the first time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was in the San Francisco Bay Area before it turned into what it is today. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, and check this out. I started wearing Japanese streetwear, right? This no one in my family was knew about this, and I was like the first person to have a bathing ape shirt that they had seen in New Orleans that wasn't on Lil Wayne. That was just on a regular person like me. So I'm just doing all this stuff, and apparently I started threatening the identity of the people around me. Where it's like I showed up and they're like, "Oh, he thinks he's better than us." This isn't everybody, by the way. I still get love from all my peoples, but there was just this friction, and I didn't get it. And the way they wanted to help me out was to bring me back to 1X. And
Oh,
I'm like, "Oh my
preach on it,
goodness,
bro.
that's what was happening." They're like, "Oh, you don't need patent leather tennis shoes." Cause I had like some of the, as I said, I was rocking with the some underground New York shit and some, Japanese streetwear brands. And it's like, they're like, why does he have, you know, patent leather sneakers? Is he into some, San Francisco Height Street, stuff that we need to call the preacher in for? And I'm like, what y'all talking about? What's going on? This is what we do. I show up to church, in the loud color shirt, and it's like no tie, just a t-shirt and sneakers, and they're like, "Excuse me, young man, you're obviously been influenced by the devil out there in San Francisco."
The
Um,
devil. The devil
yeah,
made him do it.
but it was effing with their identity. So what I'm saying is all these realizations from our discussion before, it made me realize how strong the identity was, where they cheered for me. All of a sudden, it looks like my identity is changing, and then all of a sudden it's threatening them, so they wanna pull me back into 1X mode, and that whole that whole thing blew my mind, and I was like, "Oh, okay. That's how it happens. I need to have a little more empathy for the people around me when I'm making these big jumps. Otherwise, instead of trying to support me, they're gonna pull the rug from under." So,
No, that's powerful, man. That's why people don't make that leap to 10x because the body, emotion stays in motion, body, just standing still will stay still. And so when you try to move away from, who they perceived you as, so different in their mind, they can't perceive it. It shakes their identity. Think about that. So me and
yeah,
Mr. Benja grew up together. So why is he doing all this stuff? But we grew up together. I don't understand that. And then so if you messing with their identity, of course they're gonna be more defensive. So no, that can't work. No, that
yeah,
doesn't I can't conceive that. And so I think that's the power of that 10x power. And that's why you have to kind of put yourself in different environments. But yeah, that's a good point, man. I think you gotta be aware of that 10x next level, it will be threatened. It
yeah,
will try to pull you back down.
yeah, it's funny. No, I was at a restaurant, and they thought I was vegan. Right? I think at some point I didn't want some, like, really shitty hunk of meat that had been, boiled, fried, and over salted or whatever, so I'm like, "Nah, I'm not eating that." And they thought I was vegan. So when the food came out and I'm like, "Here we go," and I jumped into my pork chop, they're like, "I thought you were vegan. You're out in San Francisco and everything." Like, "No, no, no. I don't know where you got that from." And I okay. Anyway, yeah,
Nice.
but yeah,
Revelation. Awesome. I like
revelation.
it.
So awesome, it made me change my website, Mr.Benja.com.
Check it out.
Ready for these
So
stories, man?
what's up, man? Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, man. That was fun. Story number one: AI sex fluencers. They're a thing. Now, I don't know if you've heard lately, but there has been this separation in the past from, sex workers, exotic dancers, strippers, and the like, and then society. I mean, it's not like
Mhm.
that's the only division. We have assassins and hitmen over here. They're just their own separate pocket of life. But in the world of sex fluence, the sex industry, there seems to be this blending of sex work into real life, and AI is starting to become part of that. It's all becoming this weird normalized thing. And we talked last week about Pinky Doll. And
Mhm.
because of that talk, somebody sent me this article, or not this article, this website about AI sex influencer. I don't know. Tell me if you've heard of her, Vicky Verano. Have you heard of this person, this entity?
I have not heard of this until you mentioned it to me.
Okay, so that's the first time you heard about it. So I sent Theo a message about Vicky Verano. Now, Vicky Verano is an AI bot that has more friends than you. And it's not just your normal, hi, I'm a Twitch streaming bot kind of canned phrases kind of thing. This is a digital character that's got Instagram posts, videos, a Twitter feed, and this Vicky character is just getting more content and more interaction out there than real people who are actually trying. And she's knocking it out the park. Now, I thought it was just
Mm.
her, right?
Mhm.
Well, Vicky Verano is online having conversations with people. And then I noticed some of these people, you know, were getting retweeted. And like this one girl was like, "Ooh, Vicky, you're doing it so well." And, Vicky retweeted that. This Vicky AI bot retweeted this tweet, giving her props. I looked at this tweet that Vicky retweeted, and it was coming from another AI digital personality. So I'm like, wait a minute. It's not just Vicky, it's another AI bot, and they're talking to each other, retweeting each other. And I'm looking at the comments. There are people in there who can't tell that they're AI. There are people in there who don't know that they're AI. There are people in there who know but don't care because this is the best interaction they've had online in a while. And it was really fascinating because now these AI characters can start to sell things better than us. We don't have to
Mm.
worry about them getting caught up in a scandal unless it's been programmed into the system. We don't have to worry about them being shameful. It's it's just really bizarre. And coming off the tails of our discussion about humans trying to act like NPCs, it's
Mhm.
it's very interesting. And this is not just a regular character. This is also this, and why I call it a sex influencer is because normally, if you had a discussion like this with a proper person, you could there'd be too little too it'd be a little too real to ask these people these questions and talk to them in certain ways and interact with them the way you do. But because they're AI sex influencers, it's this weird area of it's just okay, it's fun, and it's kind of creepy. And I don't know. This is very weird, man. What do you think of all this?
No, this is fascinating. I mean, we talked about this before, the power of AI. Yes, it can enhance human productivity, but it can potentially replace human productivity, right? And this is an example in social media world because it's tireless, I just always think of that line from Terminator, right? Where he's telling her about the AI robots that coming to kill her. He said, "They don't eat, they don't sleep. He will never ever stop until you're dead." And it's like that's what's happening on social
Yeah.
media. That these AI influencers are coming for all that money, man. And hell, we talked about Mr. Beast being a potential plant. Hey, he might be an influencer,
Yeah.
right? We don't know. It came from Google, right? They came up with the transformer that made ChatGPT a reality. But I digress. But yeah, I think this is something that's very interesting and fascinating that we're gonna keep an eye on. I do feel like this is for the ones who can kind of maneuver it the best, they're probably gonna take advantage of it the best. And so we're gonna see a lot of mainstream influencers either go that route, maybe digitize themselves, and we won't know the difference since they already have the resources and the money to kind of stay omnipresent, or we're gonna see new ones pop up into the fold, like this Vicky, right? And
Yeah.
sex is always like you always told me, if you want to know where technology is going, go look at what's happening in the sex industry, right? They're kind
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
the canary in the coal mine. They're gonna try that
Yeah.
there first, right? Credit card processing, video streaming, VHS tapes. I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
technology will start there, right? You're
Wearables.
seeing what wearables. As in girlfriends. But yeah, man, I'm telling you, you're right. This is kind of like a preview into where social media is coming. And I think that's going to lead nicely into our next conversation about is there a pleasant place for conversation, for real people?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'll jump on that in just a half a second. But this is it's so interesting to me because we're seeing these like, as I was saying, Pinky Doll and Cherry Crush. I think with the AI, we are allowed to kind of look at this sex industry, AI, it's not a real person, whatever. And now we're seeing people filling that space too. So there's this weird middle ground where people are, I don't know, I think it's going to be damaging to the psyche of the next generation, I believe. Something I don't think this is how it should be. We're going to need to pull back from this a little bit. I think this is conservative Benja coming out, but
Kids, get off my yawn.
no, I mean like a lot of these. I don't know if you knew Pinky Doll, Cherry Crush, and all these other people doing the NPC thing. The vast majority of them are using that as a bridge, so somebody clicks on their link tree, so somebody finds their OnlyFans, and it leads to hardcore stuff. So this is well, if you can find the podcast from way back when we talked about weird Japanese trends coming over into America, this is one of them. But as you said, Theo, we can look to make the internet a nicer place, hopefully with some new technologies and new platforms like Threads, which brings us to story number 2. Why Thread sucks. It's deeper than previously thought. So yeah, check this. I was having a mental moment, and I was just sitting down thinking, staring at the ceiling fan, watching it spin around as I thought, and I was like, "Yeah, man, Thread sucks. Why?" And I came up with 5 reasons, and there are probably more cogent reasons for this, but here are the 5 that I had. I'll just list them out first, and then we'll go over them. It relies on haters of the app. A lot of people there, so mad at the concept of Elon Musk and X and Twitter that they're just like, screw this, Threads, and that's what they talk about or don't talk about. 2, it got started with millions that had no clue of how to use the platform, bringing everybody over from Instagram who are on there because they don't use Twitter, and you're sending them over to a Twitter-like platform. It's like that's bonkers. It's like, hi, none of us know how to ride bikes, and we're all from the auto driver community of America, but none of us know how to ride bikes, and we're now here. What do we do? You know. So third problem came from a visual medium. Now, this seems regressive, right? Like if I'm on a visual medium with reels, with video, with pictures, and all of a sudden I'm on something where I can only post 500 words of text. In fact, I don't think Instagram has a maximum of 500 words of text. I think you can type way more than that. Yeah, it just seems regressive. So people are there like, wait, this is like Instagram, except the text is on top of the picture instead of the other way around. And they're just posting text first, then the picture, but they're posting the exact same thing. And it just seems like this regressive, featureless version of it. So no, basically no one's using it because of that. Like, why would I do this? Fourth, it uses a for you model, not a friend one. Hopefully, in a text-based app like this that's just coming out, the idea was that you could get around, talk to your friends, and get back to that. But it didn't regress in that perspective. It's still using the for you model, the interest model instead of the friend model. So that's not what people are actually looking for. It's like I don't want people talking about these certain interests that I might be interested in. I want people who are a little more thoughtful and having a friendly discussion, maybe that I know. And lastly, it's overrepresented by marketers looking for the next big thing. For some reason, when people heard that there were like 200 million users signed up, the marketers got there first. Usually, you don't want the marketers to get there first. That's like showing up to a brand new beach and everybody on there on the beach is already trying to sell you sunglasses and shades and stuff. And you're like, oh, I just wanted to lay out on the beach before too many people knew about it. And now it's like the guy's trying to sell me guides to this new beach. And I just haven't been there for minutes. So I said that and I'm like, man, I hope this social media platform can fix this because it's got some fundamental problems. I don't know, but they need to make some changes. Thoughts on that?
No, man. Nah, great, great, great piece. I think I even liked and shared it on threads to my little community. So I kind of go through a few points on this. When I talked to you on threads about it, I definitely felt that number five, overrepresented by marketers, was definitely my biggest beef. I think, you can kind of, but they do have options to kind of filter that out a little bit by, not following people and doing different things. But, what you can do is, it does seem like it's one of those things that just kinda overpopulate because 'cause you're right. It came a lot of marketers on our Instagram, and so when they saw this, heard about all these users, and it was nothing to do on 4th of July weekend, they all jumped on there.
Oh yeah,
And,
that's right.
the ones that do it well, the great marketers that do it well, right? Like, shout out, this is Nikki. She's just providing value, right? Engagement.
Mhm.
But then, everyone else at that course, man. There were courses on threads, man, on day two. So I guess, it is what it is, but that was something that I was like, man. But it made sense, right? If you're funneling, if the medium that you're using has all these marketers, of course you're gonna have it's gonna over index in marketers. It's just a statistical, probability. So anyway, so that was my biggest beat. But I was trying to address some of these that you had talked about real quick. One of the things I thought was they use a for you model, not a friend one. I would argue that is on purpose, right? Twitter also is
Mhm.
used an algorithm, right, to kind of spread his worth and value. I sent you an article about this. I think I forgot the guy's name, Ben Thompson. He wrote an article about this, about like the way to how they grow social media. Everybody was trying to do this direct connect and connect. It doesn't work, right? Because the algorithm
Yeah.
is way better, scales faster, and so everybody went that route, even Twitter, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's why Threads did that, is because they want you to be exposed to new content, and they want to promote the content that is doing well, so that can, keep them, the heavy users on there more. And so I think that was on purpose, but it does lead into your other point where it says, it came from a visual medium, which seemed progressive. So I think, so yes, the algorithm helps, but these folks have no clue how to communicate in a text-based medium, right? And so
Right.
when they do talk to you and communicate, it's just that marketing lingo. And it's like, wait a minute. So I want to get some new folks. Fine. Algorithm do your work, but the algorithm is not smart enough to realize these people don't know what the hell they're doing when it comes to this platform. So, it needs to get smarter to figure out how to show you content that's relevant to this type of market, this type of platform. So I think, and that leads to your first point, Facebook launched this and didn't know what the hell they're doing. Now, can they improve upon it and move faster? I don't know. I mean, you tell me, is the energy still there? It does seem like it's died down after a month in, but I think but to your point, there's people still engaged with it, just like all platforms. There's people, I think I enjoy it. I think you enjoy it. I think it is a quieter place. I am using it to get my thoughts out. You gave me a great strategy. You gave a great strategy last time. Those don't want to know what it is, go check our last podcast with on how to use the platform better, and it's powerful that way. You're right, that does work. I've reached some folks and they replied back. And so anyway, make a strong story forward. I mean, do we feel? What's your prediction for Threads? Let's just get to the meat. Will it be viable a year from now, or what?
So I think Zuck and company actually have a strong design sense. I really do. But I think that's overshadowed by their sense of getting out in front, getting the users and winning. So I think in this case, you do have a little bit of show versus business where they're trying to, hey, let's get those numbers up, let's get those people involved, and then we can adjust the product afterwards. And I think they're looking at it the wrong way. I'm like, no, 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 you've already got a captive audience. You've already got a bunch of people waiting on something good. Don't worry so much about getting those numbers. Just make the product a little stronger in terms of what they want. You can turn the dial back later. For example, we were talking about at the top of the Threads app, you can tap the icon and it gives you a listing of for you or
Mhm.
the people you're following. Hundreds of I still see posts of people like, hey, I'm confused. Why am I seeing all these people I don't know? Why am I seeing all these other clowns? when I just want the people I'm following. I can't even see the people I'm following. And I just started the app. Screw this. And you don't see them for 2 weeks. Well, that's a design choice that has been made. And it's like, yeah, they're pulling out Zuck and the Threads guys and Maseri, that's his name. They're pulling out a late stage strategy on an early stage rollout of the platform. So that's difficult. What you got? A
Yeah,
new stat here?
yeah. I'm just reading some stuff here, but before I get into that, yeah, I didn't even know that. Matter of fact, I put that on my clothes. I'm like, oh wow, it's hidden. You have to actually click on the little thread icon, and boom, now you see vote. I was like, what? Oh, that's how you see the people I want to see and follow. So it's like you're right. It's a design choice, and they're just not being as smart about this new platform. Or to your point, do they really understand what drives people to come, visit the platform? But yeah, so it started the beginning of July, on July 7th, with 44 million daily active users on the platform. At the end of the month, they were down to 8 million daily active users, which is about 82% down from its peak. So yeah, the engagement is down, even though it gained 100 million users in its first 5 days. So what's that? Shoot, 8 million, 8%. The people that signed up are active on the platform. That's not great, Bob. We can definitely get into that, but
Bob.
yeah, it's a meme. It's a meme. I don't know if you saw that one from Mad Men, but that's what I got. Yeah, so it's one of those things, man, that I think, they have to kind of really reevaluate what the plans are and what the program is. But it's something there. And that's the challenge. It's like
Yeah.
with a lot of these platforms, it's just something there. But do you have the wherewithal when you're a big company like Facebook to kind of put the energy to making it happen? And I don't
Right.
know. They haven't shown that too much.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave with one question that you can think about in the future. Now, we know Reddit exists. It's existed for over a decade. We know Twitter exists. It's existed for over a decade. But there's a fundamental question that we might have to ask. And I'm sure somebody between Zuckerberg, Mercedes, and all these information and social scientists are actually thinking, do people actually want text based social media at all? Like, I mean, we used it before because it was around and it was there, but do we actually want that? We want a connection, but do we want to do it text based like this? There may be a whole nother paradigm shift that's out there and that Threads is missing the opportunity on. But that's a thought piece for later.
No, well,
Oh,
well,
oh, oh,
well.
oh,
I
oh,
mentioned
oh.
that. I did mention that on one of our podcasts. Once again, Ben Thompson talked about it. He argued that text-based messaging time has passed. So yes, we have communicated and talked about that previously. If text-based messaging or text-based communication in social media is still a thing, and so anyway, so we'll see. I mean, it so far doesn't look like it is. That's the downgrade of the usage and what people have seen. Because I think the challenge with text-based communication is, yeah, it's just not as engaging, right? You can build conversations around it, but can you keep people on the platform longer with engaging conversations? Since it's one direction, it's like email, you send it out, you don't know when the other person's gonna reply. It's not real
Right,
time. So it's kind of like the conversation is like if no one's responding, unless you're having like 100 different conversations, there's no way you're gonna stay on the platform longer than, a couple seconds because oh, my favorite person didn't respond to me, so let me move on. Whereas video, you have a 30-second video, an hour video, you got the next video, you know, you're on that platform for a long time.
yeah,
So I would argue that if you're looking at what they're driving is usage on their platform, text-based communication, even if you're having great conversations, will never have the engagement that they need in order to make this platform viable. So there it
right,
is.
right. And I'm looking back at our history, and I remember the Ben Thompson guy and the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man. So that was back on July 11th, I think. So yeah, I'm double checking our conversations. Theo, you're on point. You're in the future. I'm sorry, I'm still in the past catching up. I'm buffering. I'm just catching up.
Well, we should do an end of year. Theo got it right. Theo got it wrong. Benja got it right. Mr. Benja got it wrong. That's the we'll do.
Exactly. But yeah, this is all very fascinating though. And I don't want to open up a new rabbit hole. I think we should just, oh, Threads is now active on they've got their web interface going now. Boom.
Okay. Thank you.
So you can go to threads.net and you still can't comment. You still have to use the app, but you can at least see everybody's threads and stuff. So once again,
Who
something that
cares?
people really didn't ask for. I'm going back over to X where it's exciting.
No, don't do that. X gonna give it to you.
All right. All right. So now we are moving into wait, what story are we on? Story number
Three.
3. Story number 3. Warner Bros. Discovery saves money in the strike. Man, that sounds interesting. Big actor strike, writer strike, and WBD is like, hey, we saving money, dog. Theo, this is our streaming business update. Why don't you take this one over?
Yeah, yeah, man. It's earnings season. And these streamers are out here, talking about how much money they're making and not making. And, David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, one of the poster boys of the strike, at the writers and everyone hates, just said, hey, guess what? This strike has saved us $100 million. How so, you say? Well, business 101, man. They are in the process of trying to figure out the revenue models and all that. And, they have budgets for all these movies that they've already set aside. So that's cost. Now with these strikes, going on and all these movies getting postponed, guess what? They just saved all that cost on their books. Now the movies will get produced one day, but just not on the books this year. And so that's really good when it comes to reporting because you usually report your numbers a quarter. And so things like your operating costs, right? The opportunity to build out these businesses, these movies, to create these movies, all that's not on the books for this year. So that means that their money, their net profit, basically what they make after revenue and after the revenue minus, all the costs it takes to make these movies and TV shows, their free cash flow also is growing bigger. So to them that, hey, we saved $100 million. Look at us. We're getting in the red. We're getting the black. And also another thing that's driving this is the fact that all the executive bonus compensation is tied to driving up free cash flow. So basically, if you're an executive at the company, you got people under you. I got to cut some comps, man, because if I cut some comps, I get a bonus. So Johnny, my assistant John, or assistant marketer Martha, get in here. Fired. Boom. I just saved the company $200,000. It cuts my bonus check. So anyway, that's what's going on. So David Zaslav, but he's not the only one, man. I mean, Netflix has said in our notes here, they said these strikes could help them save close to $1.5 billion this year because of the work stoppage. So the stoppage has been a good thing for the studios. And so that's why you're seeing somewhat of a impasse between the two sides because the studios are saying, hey, this, and as you know, we talked about this, a lot of these streaming services, except Netflix, are just basically have so much debt, right? Because they needed so much debt to
Right.
build up the content. They got to pay off. They got interest payments they got to pay, right? And that's painful. So yeah, they're in a situation where they have to, this has come at a great time for them, even though according to Bob Iger, it's not a good time. So yeah, so that's what's going on there. And just give you some notes on what happened with with Warner Bros. Discovery. They talked about they're at 95.8 subscribers, so they lost about almost 2 million in the
Okay.
first quarter. They're saying that they lost 55% of their revenue comes from cable, and this is the big thing was driving a lot of this too. Is they one of the core sources of revenue for a lot of these companies was cable business, right? Linear TV, that's what they call it. That's drying up because we talked about cord covers for
That seems
years.
high, man. 55%.
It's still high. Think
Wow.
about it. That you know how much money I think their margins on cable television for a lot of these was close to like 80%. They were just printing money because think about it. Cable has two sources of revenue. They had the carrier fees, right? Basically
Right.
what we pay every month for it. And they had advertising dollars. So it was one of the few media models that's just printed money. And now that enabled Disney, because they had a lot of uh, cable companies, cable subscribers to just buy stuff like Marvel and Pixar because they had so much cash from the books from cable. But that's drying up fast. And as you can see, it's still 55% of their revenue. And so also advertising revenue is down by 13%. So they're not making enough money on the advertising side. Why? because, we're in a recession, people cutting costs, people not buying as much. So, but they're also saying, hey, even though revenue's down, you know, cord cutting is accelerating. We still saw revenue grow to 2.73 billion this quarter. And I think that's probably in large because of some of the successes of the HBO brand, Succession and The Last of Us that helped with some, awareness content. People subscribe probably
Yeah.
more. Did you subscribe? I think you did subscribe a little bit for The Last of Us, right?
I actually I wasn't on there for The Last of Us, I was on there for something else, and I was like, "Well, let me run it one more month and get The Last of Us," and,
There you go.
that
Got
was
your money in that 7.5, that 2.25 billion, brother.
nah, nah,
2.73 billion. That's
you know,
you.
that's you. Yeah, that was the last of me they got because I didn't even finish that series. I was like, "Done. I don't want it. Turn it off."
Oh. Did you play the I already asked you. You never played the game, did you?
I mean, yeah, I have played the game. I haven't, like, really played through the games, but they weren't terribly interesting to me, and putting that in live action form made it even worse. I was like, I don't wanna see any live action recreations of it just didn't work for me.
Gotcha.
It worked for a lot of people, so I'm not gonna bash it. I'm
Yeah.
like,
I
"Cool,
loved it.
I
I thought it
get
was
it."
good. And I didn't
Oh,
play the game, but I thought it was really good.
really?
So, yeah, so what do you think about this, man, about the money these studios are printing out right now because of the work stoppage and the fact that, yeah, this is helping them save their bottom line for the year?
So, I don't know how this works in Hollywood, and maybe some of our listeners can help me with this. Send me a message or throw it in the comments or whatever, but I've been on video games or there have been times when you have a break in production. Something has to stop, a project moves from company to another studio or something, and it basically frees up a lot of money, like you were saying, that just sits around, free cash. And when that happens, it's like suddenly everybody's like, "Hey, listen, we're not allowed to just sit around and sit on this money. Money has to move. It has to go into something. We're not going to have people standing around, installing new high-tech vending machines and all this other stuff when we could actually be working." So, in the video game industry, what we've done is always, or we did do, or maybe even step back farther than that. What I saw happen in plenty of instances was the companies deciding, "Hey, listen, we could R&D on this project that we were thinking about." Or, "Hey, or, this other game that's going on, we could add 4 more levels to it, the levels that we were talking about, so we could make this thing even stronger. Hey, we could do that other studio that was failing, we could send some of those guys some new support, we could do this." And that money always went somewhere to make something happen. And for whatever reason, for a variety of reasons, I suppose, it wasn't just, let's continue doing the same thing, but with more resources. It was always like, hey, we have to prove to somebody that we're taking this extra money and doing something awesome with it. So it makes me think, for Hollywood, what does this change into? For Netflix, do they start creating more interactive shows? Do they try out some other things? Do they, okay, we don't have access to writers right now. Let's beef up our interactivity on the website. Let's put more money into our technology back end. Let's make a social media uh, extension to the Netflix app where, you know, you can see all the threads and tweets or whatever connected to the show. I don't know. But the money goes somewhere. And if it can't go to a certain place, like in video games, it was, hey, we can't make for the PlayStation 4 anymore. We're all on the PlayStation 5. All of a sudden that money gets freed up and you have this influx of money into R&D, into new experiences, trying different things. So I want to see where it happens, where it goes. That's the only insight I might have on that. Like, okay, we might see something interesting come out of this because this is a chance to really kind of pivot into a better place.
So we'll see. It's a good thing, but I think it may slow negotiations a little bit when it comes to getting the actors and the writers back to work. If you got money in your pocket, what's the rush? Good. This is all. See you next year. So we'll see. Well, yeah, they're talking at the table. So there's some breaking news. They're starting to, get in the room and in the table to have
Yeah.
some conversations. But I don't know if there's impetus, at least on the studio side, to move as fast. the act and then I don't know if you saw some of the actors, I think The Rock, he put some money
Yeah.
inside the, SAG bag and got some of the actors some money. Other A-listers are doing the same thing, so, I mean, that helps, but, I don't think it's going
Yeah.
pay their rent, but at least it helps them last a couple more months. But yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I think the actors have to get a little bit more real about some of their demands. So we'll see what happens there. What you got next, Mr. Benja?
I got story number 4. Disney's got some corporate shenanigans going on. What's up with that? Theo, I heard about Disney killing off the physical media of Blu-rays and DVDs in Australia, and I was like, "Oh man, what's going on with Disney? Disney's just making weird moves. No more physical media in Australia. What's this mean?" And you were like, "Nah, I got even more than that. Got some machinations going on in the background." So I heard Iger's doing some stuff. Let us know what's going on back there because Disney's got some things happening.
I mean, Disney's all over the place, man. Their stock is down, man. I got some stock, full disclosure, Disney stock. Man, I thought it was riding high, man. That thing is down like 20%. I'm like, what is going on? Fire Iger. Get him, get rid of him. But anyway, no, he came back as a conquering hero. Everybody loves him. I, I don't know. I think he does seem lost now, man. He's talking about, like you said, getting rid of physical media. He's talking about, what is the future for ESPN? He's thinking about, having a partner to sell it all. It's definitely times that he's trying to figure out what is the goal. What do we need to do with Disney for the future? Because it doesn't seem like anything's working right now. And he's also got to think about what he wants to do with Comcast, Universal, right? He's got to pay them a lot of money, to buy all of Hulu. And it looks like he's gonna have to more and more likely do that. And obviously Disney still has a lot of debt and they got to put more debt on the balance sheet. That's not good. So, and then in the midst of this, he decided, yes, he's got, executives underneath him. He re-upped for another 2 years, which you heard about. So he's gonna be around for a couple more years, but he's got to get a successor in place because he can't be at Disney forever. And so he brought back two guys who he kicked out previously into the fold as consultants. For those that don't know, these guys, one is Kevin Mayer. The reason why he's important is because he was the executive responsible for creating Disney Plus. Iger told him go create a streaming service, and he did it. Most successful launch of a streaming service ever. I think out the gate, got like 100 million subscribers, and was like second to Netflix within, if you include Hulu and ESPN Plus, second to Netflix within like 3 months. So very successful launch. And Kevin Mayer is like the brain trust of that. And the other one is Tom Staggs, who was a CFO. They became the COO. And the thing about both of them is they left because they got passed over by Chapek. And so, what happens is if you don't know a CEO succession speak, if you don't get the top job, you don't stay around. You're out. If they don't pick you, be the head guy, there's no point in staying around that. If it's three guys and one gets chosen, I mean, I saw this all the time when I worked in corporate America as CEO. We had a CEO search. We thought it was going to be one guy. There was two other guys in for it. Soon as that other guy got it, the other two were gone.
Yeah,
And yeah, they
that
went
is so
off to do
weird,
their own
by the
thing.
way. Where it's like you got 3 people on relatively equal levels. The one guy stays, the other 2 go, and then the person that stayed, the people he's associated with move up to those positions.
Exactly. That's
And
how it
that is
works.
so weird to me, but it
Matter of
makes sense.
fact, as a matter of fact, I sat next to one of those guys that got bumped up with the CEO. I was at a big event, my previous job in corporate America. I was talking to the guy. He got to know our new current CEO at this corporation, Cisco Systems, and it was a fluke. He happened to be in the same neighborhood at the time that the new CEO was in that mid, career transition. And, the guy was back to his hometown of Atlanta and he just wanted to, be close to his family. And the guy, who was, just happened to get to know him, that he would hang out all the time, have cookouts, sit in each other's yards, drinking beer. And, fast forward 5 years later, he became CEO. Guess who became COO? I want to go. Let's go, man. We're going back to the cookout.
Yeah.
So I just, it just shows you that these corporate shenanigans is all about who you know, man, and like, who your connections are. And it's also trust. I'm sure he's proven that he's capable in whatever capacity, right? But So likewise, that's what happened, with these two guys when they left. And so they went off and formed together another company called Candle. They got some money from PE Group, a private equity group, and they went ahead and bought some things like Moonbug Entertainment, which if you don't know who they are, they created Coco Melon, which if you have a young child, you know what that
Oh
is.
gosh, that song.
Coco Melon. So anyway, and then the other one, my niece loves that. So shout out to my niece. And then Eden, and then also Reese Witherspoon. She sold her Hello Sunshine, production company. So the vision of Candle was to kind of create like become the arms dealer and show all this content to all the streaming services, right? But now that streaming services are not looking to buy as much content, I don't know if that business model is going to make sense. So it makes sense for them to go back to Disney and consult, get a little cash, while whatever's happening to this falls apart. What likewise, Disney is falling in flames, and Bob Iger obviously doesn't have trust in his current people, so he's bringing on board these guys he trusted before, see if they can help him right the ship. So it just goes to show you that corporate America is not that hard to understand once you understand the relationships. So will this be successful for Disney? I don't know. I don't know even know these guys have a clue what's happening in streaming service, right? And so they were successful one time, so that gives them a leg up. But just because you're successful one time, don't mean you'll be successful again, especially in a new environment of streaming service and what Disney has to overcome. So anyway, so that's the latest and greatest with Disney machinations, man. I know we talk about Disney a lot, but it's just so fascinating. And we already talked about. I think we talked about how the parks are like dead now. So,
Yeah.
matter of fact, I'm going to check out the park this weekend, Disney Park with the family. I'm going to check it out. I'll report. But if it's like they've been saying, so revenue will be down for Disney parks. They're probably going to push back their slate of movies. I think the only movie they got coming out the rest of this year is the Marvels. I don't project Disney's earnings is going to be that great. Matter of
Mm,
fact, might do something with that knowledge. So more to come.
yeah. All right, let's wrap this up with story number 5. Apparently, Netflix residuals ain't, and maybe the streaming model isn't either. Theo, we've talked about this before. We brought it up in different ways, but we were recently, during the strike, writer strike and actor strike, a lot of people have been saying like, "Hey, you're making all this money. Why are you complaining? Why are you?" And they're like, we're not hitting it off like that. I mean, you have the A-listers, as you mentioned before, and maybe some high-level B-listers who are kind of doing the thing consistently, but everybody else, it's been difficult. Orange is the New Black, the star Kimiko Glenn, she posted some things, and you probably researched this a little better than I have. So just to give a perspective on how, I don't want to say dire the situation is, but how bad it is for these actors out here. What was she talking about?
Yeah, so if you don't know, Orange is the New Black was a great hit for Netflix, one of their first early hits. And Miko Glenn, she was actually in Orange is the New Black for 44 episodes. Such a new concept streaming for these actors and actresses. They didn't know what they were getting into. Typically sign up for a show. If it's a hit, you expect to get residual checks in the thousands. I mean, you hear stories about the Friends cast, right? They got so much money from Friends that they don't have to work a day in a. That's not the case with Orange is the New Black stars. She mentioned her residuals are roughly around $27.30, I think, every week that she gets from Netflix. And it's disappointing, because she worked in so many shows. And she wasn't the only one that spoke out about this. Several other actresses from that show spoke about it. And I think because streaming was such a new concept then, that
Mm,
no one knew how to write the contracts for like streaming because there's no ratings, right? There's no dictation.
yeah.
So I think maybe they probably got a little bit more money up front. I think that's the other thing that they don't
S-
talk about. But
So
the go ahead.
yeah, that's what I was curious about. According to this Decider article about Orange is the New Black, Stark and Glenn, they could have a $900 per day of shooting,
Mhm.
you know, and but even that still breaks down to taxes, commissions for a day of shooting. So, you know, let's say $1,800 for a month's work of work. And if you're living out in New York or any of the places where actors need to be in Los Angeles, then you're not really making anything, So you might as well go work for Best Buy or hang out at Trader Joe's with that guy from the Cosby Show.
Good point. Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about that. So yeah, I mean, look, we talked about this. This is one of those things that streaming. That's why actors on strike, writers on strike. The big thing is there's no metric to determine if these shows are hits or not, and so there's nothing to tie to revenue compensation, right? But you think of it, if a show is a hit and I contributed to that in some fashion, I should be rewarded. That what they're doing is they upended the model. They're like, look, yes, you may have a hit, but the vast majority will not have a hit ever. So how about this? We'll pay you a higher than average upfront fee. So just in case it fails, at least you got something for it. And a lot of them took that deal. Let's be honest. And so I would too, right? It's more, less of a risk. You feel more comfortable. And so that's why they're upset now because if there's hits, they don't know what a hit is, and they're not getting, receiving their fair share of that. But if they want to go to the other model, they're still going to be in the same boat because now they're hoping and praying that it will be a hit. So I don't know, man. I don't know the solution to this. I know they're trying to work through that and figure out what is a fair and equitable path. Part of the reason is they need to figure out a metric of what is a hit. And obviously, these guys, these companies are public companies, but they don't reveal ratings. They set that as a standard. Netflix set that as a standard. They may show
Yeah,
you top 10. What does that even mean? Top 10 based on what? How many people saw 5 minutes of, they
yeah.
clone Tyrone? It's
How,
a
how
hit.
many how many people click the like button on thumbs up or whatever? No telling. And yeah, and it's like even especially when you're in the midst of these shows, you really can't tell if it's going to be good or not because there's so much. And like, I'm not behind the camera. I don't know what they're seeing. I don't know what the sound crew is doing. I don't know how this is going to be packaged. I don't know the entire arc. I can't. You can't read so much of the story of the production that you really can't tell if it's going to be good going into it. And if somebody had told me, aside from you know the deviant interest in the back of my head of watching a women's prison drama, you know, I wouldn't have thought to myself saying, "Hey, you know what? Orange is the New Black is going to really be a good and solid show." So yeah, that's all I got on this. But this is very interesting.
I know. I know. Well, Mr. Benja, man, this has been a great episode. Anything coming up this week?
Yeah, man, still working on that creative study lounge. And listen, all creatives are going to be loving this thing. It's finally a place where the creatives can hang out, talk, and do their thing. Putting this together, man. I'm so happy with what's been bubbling. So it's coming soon. That's all I gotta say. Coming soon.
So excited, guys. Well, hey, everyone. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment at Show versus Business on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Look, our Instagram and YouTube videos are going up more often, so go check those out. Please listen to us at Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, go visit us on our website, Show versus Business. All right, Mr. Benja, take care.
Peace.